Hi, it's Romy, Scorpio. Welcome to my channel. This is your January 2021 soul story. So if you have your sun rising or your moon in Scorpio, then this general reading might give you some resonance throughout the month. I'd encourage you just to check back in and see how some of the messages and insights might be further validated as your own storyline continues to unfold in January. So we're going to open up the reading with the energy of the King of Cups, a water sign, and perhaps the expression of your own energy or another Scorpio, Pisces or Cancer that's very relevant through this month. There is an acclimatization process that we're all going through as we feel our way into the freshness of a new year and a different type of energy. And perhaps that chaotic feel of December and all of the astrological energy that was unfolding at that point is something that you are still making sense of within yourself. I think an important thing to reflect, particularly for Scorpio, is that we're now moving away from the heavy emphasis on a lot of the cardinal energy in toward the fixed signs, of course, which you are one. So as Jupiter and Saturn are now in Aquarius, as we welcome Mars moving into the sign of Taurus on the 6th of January, of course, Uranus is already in Taurus, and we have a full moon in Leo later this month on the 28th, and then the sun in Aquarius from the 19th. So all this heavy emphasis in and around the fixed energy sign is really bringing about a consideration for you through this month around what you feel determined about, where you can feel more deeply into things so that you can realize a greater sense of stability. And as part of that process, there's a really profound need to return home to yourself and that deep emotional intimacy that's required to really figure out where your energy is and how you can command it. And I think this is where the King of Cups is stepping forward so beautifully and poignantly as the opening up in your reading to really give you the grace to be able to find that centeredness for yourself. One of the notes that came through when I was linking in ahead of the reading for you, Scorpio, was that a little goes a long way. And I think that this is the approach that you should be taking with yourself throughout this month of January. It's not about having to necessarily come to the full realizations of what everything meant through the course of the last year for you, but it is about a recognition of the progress that you've made and the small steps forward now that you want to initiate, or perhaps changes or adjustments that are going to be coming through. And I think the energy and the expression of that King of Cups is really helping you to do that in a very rich, deep and meaningful way. And there's going to be a lot of important things that I feel this expression of energy from the King is going to be highlighting for you on an emotional level, and perhaps the need to really recognize where you want to continue to feel brave in really figuring out what satisfies your soul and what changes you might need to make in order to support that more fully moving forward. Remember, as we come into Aquarius energy, the outer planets are now heavily focused there, and we're going to be coming into the sun in Aquarius. It illuminates that fourth house for you. So it's about all of the things that you hold dearest in your life. It's the things that really support the emotional nourishment, and it's very intrinsically tied into home, to family, to nurturing, how you treat yourself on that deeply kind of quiet, self-reflective, emotional journey that you go on. And so we've got Nine of Cups coming through here as the desire to want to help you figure out what your desires are. Now, there may be an emphasis strongly in and around a specific person that you feel very emotionally connected or bonded with, and it may be that you are going through a powerful change, transformation or shift in and around that. What we're seeing as we have Mars moving into the sign of Taurus, which is in your 7th house of relationship, there is this requirement to figure out what comes next and how you can make some sustained progress for yourself by way of growth in that specific area. Now, it might not necessarily be a romantic relationship. For some of you, it might just be a very important connection that's being highlighted very strongly in January for you. But what we're seeing is a need for you to move more deeply into the idea of what is it that you need to change, or where do you need to take this And remembering this idea of a little goes a long way. We don't need to come at this with, a full force energy. It's about the nuance and the subtlety and the small details that are really helping you to anchor something in that's going to support your well-being in the right way. So you know yourself within your own journey, perhaps who this might be reflecting. And for many of you, it may simply be the relationship between you and yourself right now as you come into a time of stabilizing that and bringing in more of a sense of depth and determination to realize what it is that you want. Because the personal projection of your own energy this month is going to be really, really strong, Scorpio, and you do have, you've 2 9s coming up straight away. So this energy of perseverance, because there's a moment of accomplishment and sweetness that wants to come in and be delivered for you, is absolutely being highlighted here. But it does require, I feel, something that is perhaps to you an innately brave choice or decision that you must make. And I think you're going to be soul searching for a time to figure out what that is and perhaps how you then approach it. Now we've got Mercury moving into Aquarius and then Venus moving into Capricorn on the 8th of the month. So communication opens up ahead of the retrograde, which is going to be happening on the 30th. But the Venus moving into this earthy sign of Capricorn wants us to commit, wants us to be bold in terms of trusting ourselves, having the courage of our conviction and being able to think futuristically and progressively as we work with that Aquarian energy and Mercury. So the new moon comes in on the 13th of the month, and really I think for many of us it's going to feel like a more poignant time in January with which to kind of really set those new moon intentions, but real goals for the rest of the year as well. I think there's still that hangover energy in the first week or so that you're kind of coming to terms with and allowing the self-regulation of your own energy to take place. So that new moon feels really symbolic, I think, for you by way of allowing a release, an ending, a closure. And it may absolutely be a version of yourself or something that you are finally realizing that you need to come to terms with and accept so that you can allow yourself to move forward. And that's really synchronistically happening just ahead of when Uranus moves direct in the sign of Taurus. Again, that 7th house of relationships. So it's not going to be a surprise if it is very connected for some of you into a specific person or a way that you're relating to yourself. But remember, when Uranus does shift direct as any planet, it causes a little bit of disruption in the days kind of around that as we find our new rhythm. And so there may be this sense of you initially feeling an energy or an emotion that feels really intense, really overwhelming, even quite devastating as you feel into the loss of something. And perhaps there might be a little confusion, maybe not even understanding why the intensity or the degree to which you are feeling that particular emotion is surfacing so strongly. But you're working with new energies right now and you're feeling into a different way of expressing yourself and moving through the world. So be extra kind and compassionate when it comes to this. But it's not through something that is being blindsided or kind of forced upon you. I feel when I look at the Ten of Swords beneath this emotional energy of the King of Cups, it's something that you're already aware of. So I think it's just the full acceptance and the landing and the realization of that coming in. Okay, so what we have with the sun moving into the sign of Aquarius from the 19th is an opportunity where all the planets are then going to be in direct motion just ahead of when Mercury shifts. And so it does give us that beautiful little window of opportunity with which to make fantastic, meaningful progress in one area of our life. And I think if you can capitalize on that Capricorn new moon, remember the earth energy of that gives us real, tangible, material results to things that we want to see. So you've got the Knight of Swords, this air energy being expressed, in your reading. Perhaps it is a Gemini, Aquarius, or Libra that you're dealing with. But I feel like you are ready to move forward and to charge forward and to really clear out a lot of what's being represented in your pathway by way of that Ten of Swords. Now, this particular depiction of the Knight of Swords for me has come up a couple of times in the readings for January, and I get such a sense of invigoration and focus, and I think it's going to come in to really help you to move forward with something and allow that personal projection of your energy, like we said. Now, there is this feeling as we're moving more into the kind of influence of fourth house for you, Scorpio, about the blending of something. And for many, that might be something very close to home. So, families coming together, combining something, perhaps thinking about extensions or moves or changes that are related to the house, the home, real estate, family. This idea of blending something is going to be important. But before that happens, I feel like there are certain things that need to come into being or that need to be actualized or realized by you. And I think that the Knight of Swords is a messenger and a harbour of change in that way for you. Remember, like we said, a little goes a long way. So you don't have to use an awful lot of energy through this month of January to actually see things happen in a way that might be quite surprising for you. I also think that he brings forward a fresh burst of energy and enthusiasm that's really going to help your self-esteem in some ways and perhaps deliver that sense of bravery that you need, because what I anticipate is that it's going to give you a new feeling of security, and because we're looking at fourth house, it's going to be emotional security, okay? Now that has to come from within first of all, but I do think that there will be a physical manifestation or representation that's going to give you that reassurance through January, perhaps as we move toward the end of the month and we come into that full moon in Leo energy that's really going to bring something to a point of culmination and release for you, okay? So we have the energy of the Four of Cups here, beautiful stillness in relation to the slightly kind of chaotic burst of energy and invigoration that the Knight brings through. So actually I quite like the balance of that, because what I'm seeing is it means you're not going to burn yourself out, okay? All of her chakra centers are being illuminated and they're all lined up and vibrant, and we've got this beautiful cup that's overflowing with the two cranes kind of standing very protectively in this sacred space that I think you've carved out for yourself. So when you are able to find that sense of balance and harmony within, then it gives you much more of the impetus and the knowledge of what kind of a direction you want to take, and then make sure that you do it in a really meaningful way. Now, one of the things to highlight that's going to be happening later this month on the 17th is that Jupiter is going to be squaring Uranus. Now, Jupiter magnifies, expands, and really develops this sense of growth and opportunity on anything that it casts its gaze towards. And then we have Uranus, this rebellious, determined, freedom-seeking, shocking energy that wants to deliver a surprise. Now, when they're squaring, they're clashing, okay? So some sort of clash taking place, and we can see the lightning bolts coming through with the Knight of Swords here that might well represent that, also illuminated in the 10. But that clash can lead to a clash of brilliance. It can lead to a clash of opportunity and something really extraordinary happening, but very extreme. Now, you need to be aware that on an emotional level, this might hit hard by wanting to make radical change or to do something really out of character, or you may see that happening around you with people that are part of your social circle, part of your soul family, perhaps even this representation of the King of Cups, perhaps for some of you, or even the Knight of Swords if it's an air sign. So the energy of this can be very unpredictable, and whilst it can deliver some fantastic feats of progressive and amazing breakthroughs, it can also make people very fanatical, very obsessed, and to really do things very impulsively, which means that they can end up clearing the slate or wanting to throw everything out or get rid of things or start afresh. And so there's just a little bit of a cautionary energy. And I think, your Four of Cups is mindfully wanting to illuminate this to you, Scorpio, that just make sure you're nicely in your center before you decide to take action, because if you get caught up in that riptide, if you get caught up in that bubble of energy that is perhaps coming from a place of understandable frustration or impatience in relation to something, because you feel close to it, or you're just ready for an absolute overhaul or complete change, or to end something, it could happen so suddenly that it kind of takes your breath away. Okay, so we just want to make sure that we keep that nice, temperate, balanced energy that is helping you to stabilize, because I think there's something really important in terms of the energy of stabilization for you through this month of January that's going to be helpful. Now, it's not to say that that's necessarily going to be a bad astrological aspect, but it is a really powerful one, and it could come in very suddenly, okay? So we just need to be aware of how it could impact us and whether we are centered and kind of feeling secure within ourselves. So the Six of Cups lends itself to you feeling sensitively, I think, into what has been, what has passed. And of course, as we come into the shadow of Mercury retrograde, it is always a time to go inwards and move deeply into that sanctuary of our soul, and think about the memories and the things that have taken place and the growth that we've had, and be tender to our soul, and think about how we can be kinder to ourselves moving forward. So there's a real beautiful healing energy that I'm getting coming through with the Six of Cups. Now, we have children sort of atop this unicorn bursting over the sun here, so there is maybe something, again, very strongly connected into family or to children that might be on your mind, or in consideration for you, as some of the changes that you think about or have already happened are really being processed by you through this month of January. I think there's also this need, of course, to remind you that during Mercury retrogrades, things come back from the past, and it's not always people. Sometimes it's things that, we need to revisit within ourselves, our own patterns. Sometimes it's important initiatives, ideas, inspirations, projects. Sometimes that kind of energy of Mercury in Aquarius retrograde can make us feel really spaced out, and so we can kind of get a little bit distracted, if you like, by moving into that kind of energy and sort of feeling this slowing down. And Mars in Taurus as well wants to kind of slow things down. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because, the energy frequency is moving much faster than it ever has. And so you might be feeling a little bit out of sorts as a fixed sign anyway, just trying to find your feet a little bit through January. So that just could give you the opportunity, again, in light of that Jupiter squaring Uranus, to just make sure that, what you're thinking about and some of the choices that you make are going to be right for you, Okay, energy of the High Priestess. I really love that is coming in at the moment, because she does deliver that wisdom. She is unlocking something. She's standing at this beautiful gateway and helping you to be initiated into something new. And I think perhaps that's going to be helpful to just give you some sense of reassurance around something, Scorpio. So perhaps if you through the course of this month decide that certain things or certain changes are going to happen, or opportunities are coming your way, and you're trying to figure out if they're right for you or not, or you're trying to observe people and their responses and their actions. So there is this beautiful sense of deep trust and intuitive guidance that's coming by way of the High Priestess that you feel very familiar and comfortable with. And I think there is a very protective but very reassuring energy. Again, like the expression of the King of Cups. In fact, the High Priestess and the King of Cups are two very, very powerful, wise energies, both water in their element, that you are going to feel very at home with, being guided or inspired by. So it also suggests there are going to be people, whether they are spiritually attached to you by way of your guides, whether they are in your physical life, or people who you don't necessarily know but are guided by, that are coming in to really help you to navigate some of the more trickier aspects of what this month might be delivering for you. But again, remember this, a little goes a long way. And the High Priestess really is not somebody that is set about sharing everything or feeling like she needs to prove anything. There's a very quiet, very contained, very self-assured, sovereign energy that she is presenting for you to be able to step in and harness for yourself. And I think that's really important. You need to keep mindfully present, and that's also going to make sure that you're not making any choices or decisions that are being overly influenced by others and their kind of extreme or radical behavior through this month. But I also think that it's going to give you a really strong sense of self in terms of making sure that the timing of things lands really right for you. And I think that's important, because with the invigoration and the fresh energy and the news that I feel you want to take to the world, that you want to project, or perhaps that is coming toward you, you're going to be in the right place at the right time to ensure that you deliver maximum emotional contentment and security for yourself, okay? That's really important. Now we've got the energy of the sun coming in, again illuminating this aspect of inner child and children. So for some of you it might be a strong focus and emphasis on taking care and nurturing that part of yourself, that inner child. Where is it focused? Is it supporting your progress and your growth, or is it in a fear-based energy and trying to hold you back because it's scared about, stepping out, or a different path that's evolved, or, whatever has perhaps been the strong theme or aspects of your soul journey that you've been working on? Or is this very connected into your own family and to thoughts and emotions that are connected to children, the idea of children and what they represent? Of course, there's this beautiful burst of invigorated energy again being brought in by the sun. It does also link into the sign of Leo, and we do have this beautiful full moon in Leo coming in on the 28th of the month. I think there's something around that time that it comes in for you at heart level. So a strong realization, I feel, being felt at that time, that's going to help with this idea of the blending or the coming together of something. So maybe there's some sense of acceptance that comes in, but it also requires a commitment and some kind of sustained activity. But you're really being initiated into a different type of approach for your life. And I think that that's something you also need to communicate mindfully to people, so that they actually understand where you're coming from and why you're making the decisions that you are. But certainly it brings about a really positive expression of energy for you, and is set to light something up, perhaps where you feel it's either you've written it off, or you feel like it's taken too long to get to a certain point, or you're not sure how to get past an impasse. I feel like you've got a really beautiful breakthrough coming by way of the energy of the sun and High Priestess supporting you through the month of January as well, okay? So even though there is the kind of chaotic and the wildness of what's happening with some of the stars, and I have that Knight of Swords right in the centre of your reading, I still get quite a chilled, serene, quiet energy overall when I'm feeling into your January energy, Scorpio. And I think that that's where you need to be focused. It's on the depth and the stabilization of what you need to put into your your own soul journey to help you in terms of what comes next. So let's take a look at your oracle cards here. All right, so you've got the 7th chakra, Archangel Uriel. I love that we have an archangel coming in to support you first and foremost. All of this beautiful illumination of the lilac and the purple, just deeply spiritual. Again, it just feels incredibly healing. And there's something by way of really important knowledge and education. So I feel that the energy of this archangel wants to impart something to you that's really profound by way of learning. And you might feel that you're very drawn towards learning or taking on something different or something new to support you. Something that's maybe just for you, Scorpio. You might see it as an advancement to help you in your career, or, upskill yourself for perhaps for a change in direction, or maybe just to educate yourself so you better understand yourself or someone else. But I certainly think the opportunity for this wisdom to be brought to you by way of the right course, the right teacher, the right book, the right author. There's just something that comes in by way of a gift that we want you to open up to. deeply protective energy as well. So I feel that there's something about giving you time and space with which to breathe and to figure something out. And this feels very directly related into my Nine of Cups as I sort of tie in the beautiful lilac flowers, the lotus flowers that she's holding here, and the lilac of this archangel. And so work on the vibration of that colour. It's going to come in very important through this month to support you and actually give you some of that peace time that you might be craving and requiring as you're dealing with some perhaps challenges, or just trying to rebuild or re-energize yourself to be able to take the next step in some aspect. Those Ten of Swords energies can feel quite devastating when they hit. But at the same time, sometimes the acknowledgement of something having to release or end actually lightens the load and gives us this sense of freedom. And with Uranus very strongly aspected through the month of January, with it moving direct, and then of course these squares coming in with Jupiter and Mars, and being the natural ruler of Aquarius, there is this desire to break free and to have that moment of personal revolution. And what it does is it brings in this energy of lightness, allows you to strip something back or let something go so that you can rise higher. Maybe you rise higher in love, maybe you rise higher in recognition and success, you rise higher in contentment or peace within yourself. But recognize that this white feather, deeply connected to your own spiritual journey, and those who are protecting you and looking out for you in that way are also wanting to see you elevated in your path. And so the personal projection of your energy, like we said, is just going to be really meaningful through this month of January for you. So Scorpio, this is a general reading. I hope that some of these messages and insights will continue to have relevance for you. If you'd like to join me for the extended version, I'm going to go ahead and just pull us some additional cards right now. So I'd invite you to just think about a question that might not have emerged in the main general spread, and I'll pull us a couple of cards and we'll go into that more in detail for the next read. You can find the link for that in the description box just underneath the video in the comment section as well. It's just a way to support my work and my channel, and obviously give you a deeper insight into January. So I really appreciate those of you that join me. So let's just clarify this main spread. So beginning with the King of Cups, we have the energy of the Queen of Swords. So an air energy, Aquarius traditionally, but also could be a Gemini or a Libra that you're also dealing with. And the energy of the Four of Swords, a little bit of distance or stepping back or a need to process a situation perhaps. We'll take a look at that. Again, there's a nod to family influence here. Also perhaps financial security. I think the wheel coming through is, obviously ruled by Jupiter and strongly indicative of what the impact of the Jupiter squaring Uranus will have on your situation, your way of thinking. Got another Nine of Wands coming in for you, also known as the Wounded Warrior. It's been a long journey, perhaps for some of you, real exhaustion setting in, but beautiful perseverance coming through. There is a suddenness to some of the events that can take place through this month. But of course you might have already felt that very strongly leading up to this time. Your Empress energy coming through again, this very nurturing, fertile archetype of the family, of the mother coming through very strongly this month. Okay, this Ten of Swords clarified by the Four of Pentacles and the Hierophant. Interesting. And the Four of Wands. Okay. I think someone has something really important to say to you this month, Scorpio. And I see them trying to figure out the right way to do it. It should bring clarity to a very confusing situation, but it might require a level of tolerance and compassion for you to be able to actually receive it. doesn't mean that you have to agree with it or necessarily allow it, but there's something about having to receive the information. See if we can explore that a bit more in the extended. So you've got the Two of Swords and the energy of the Chariot, which of course links to Cancer, which also rules the 4th house. So emotional release coming through with the 8 of Cups. Something, remember I said something about helping to bring in this vibration of you feeling more emotionally secure. We have the Sun, we have the King of Pentacles, and then the Sun again. So I'm really feeling lifted about what that is coming in for you. Beautiful. Ace of Cups, self-care, nurturing. Two of Cups, lovely. Okay, Scorpio, I will leave it there. If you're joining me for the extended, I look forward to continuing this conversation. Otherwise, I wish you beautiful blessings for this month of January. Thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.